From the Oklahoma newsroom, this is an OSU update with Kyle Fredrickson. I'm Jenny Carlson. Kyle, a question that hasn't really come up much because there are some other issues, other topics that are probably a little bit more top of the head, but returning kicks and punts for the Cowboys is a question because obviously Tyreek Hill filled that role so well last year. What do we know about who potentially could step into that spot?
Well, there's a few different candidates. You know, OSU was loaded at a wide receiver. They've got a bunch of defensive backs, so there's a lot of options out there. So we'll just kind of start with the last guy that we saw. Being in the spring game, Ramon Richards was the guy that we saw return kicks. We use that term loosely, but he was the guy that the Cowboys sent back there, and it kind of brings in an intriguing prospect as him being the guy who could be the return man. Last year at this time, heading into the season, I don't think it was very feasible to have one of your starting cornerbacks in at return man. You know, between Ramon Richards, Kevin Peterson, Ashton Lampkin, those guys played every single down pretty much when they were healthy. So Mike Gundy talked a lot about how he didn't want to ask too much of those guys. They're playing so often, you know, adding those responsibilities wouldn't really make a whole lot of sense. But this year, with all three of those guys returning, you add the fifth-year graduate transfer, Michael Hunter from Indiana. It's a very solid core. If Ramon Richards is a guy that he can prove that, you know, some of those that agility and the speed that we saw from him on defense could be translated in the return game, he could definitely be one of those speedy threats. In high school, he was a multi-purpose athlete, averaged more than 5 yards per carry as a running quarterback. So he has that experience dodging defenders. We've seen him with a pick six this year as well, being able to get into open space and making things happen. So, he's one of the guys that for sure I think fans should keep their eye on.
And we know he's not afraid to take a hit either.
Right.
We also saw, though, in that Cactus Bowl, when Tyreek Hill had already been dismissed, Brandon Shepard steps in and returns. Is he an option?
I think he's got to be, just based on his skill set. You know, his flatline speed and his ability to make guys miss has been pretty well documented with the success that he's had out on the edge. But I'm not sure the Cactus Bowl performance really earned him the job necessarily. One punt return for 7 yards, 4 kick returns for about 83 yards. So some very good production out of him, but, we didn't see that home run hit in that first game, and you can't really blame him for that. But yeah, that's another guy. And once again, that same logic with the defensive backs really works with the receivers as well. They return so much. I don't think Mike Gundy would feel, as uneasy about making him that every return kind of guy, just because, he might not have to take every single snap as a receiver. He can get some rest just because they have that depth.
Any wild card names that you could see potentially stepping in there?
The guy that I think jumps to mind would be Todd Mays, the JUCO guy. OSU has him for only 2 years. You might as well kind of see what he can bring in this first year. Maybe returning kicks and punts can kind of show fans and coaches what he's able to do on the offensive side of the ball. As of right now, he's listed with the running backs group, also played receiver and quarterback at East Mississippi Community College. So you like what he brings to the table. He didn't actually return any kicks at his previous stop, but Mike Yursich says the reason they brought him in was his ability to make guys miss in space, and that's exactly what you've got to do if you're going to be returning those punts.
All right, thanks, Kyle. Be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.